Alright, what's up? This is the first episode ever of Mixed Martial Talk. I'm Andrew, and this is my co-host Justin. Right, and we're going to be talking about UFC on Fox 5 coming up this Saturday, and holy shit, that is a great card.
Man. It's going to be good. It's going to be really good.
That's probably the best card I've seen on Fox.
For a free fight, I think it's pretty fucking awesome, man.
This is clearly something you could pay for. You could make this a pay-per-view easy. No one would object.
I definitely would have paid for it. I mean, you pretty much have, three fights right away that could have been main events. I mean, the return of BJ Penn alone would probably sell, through the roof because everyone loves seeing BJ Penn. I just hope he comes back in true fight fashion.
He's done such a good job at marketing himself for this fight. I feel like it's bringing back the old BJ Penn fan in me. I'm watching every YouTube video that he puts up. He's the only guy that can put up like a 10-second video of him shadowboxing in his backyard, and everyone's like, BJ Penn's back.
No, the real killer. The real killer.
He's got that look in his eye. It's like the time he jumps out of the pool.
Oh! Or every time he sits cross-legged in that butterfly position and people see him put his knees on the ground. Look at that flexibility.
He's back.
He's back. The jiu-jitsu's back.
Yeah, and I mean, Shogun Gustafsson, that could be for #1 contender.
That's going to be a good fight. You got two people who just want to swing. They're just going to go for the fences pretty much the whole time. I will get to that in a second.
Yeah.
I think, we should probably start with the first fight.
Yeah, let's start with the opener. We got Mike Swick
versus Mike Brown, man.
Matt Brown. Mike Brown's the featherweight.
Yeah, I
was confused about that actually. I looked into that earlier today because I was thinking, I was like, how the fuck is Mike Swick fighting Mike Brown? I was like, isn't he like 5'6"? So I was like, they can't be in the same division. There's no way.
It's the start of the new crossweight class fights that are going to be taking place. BJ Penn versus JDS.
But I think that's a great opener. I think the UFC was definitely putting some thought into it when they chose that to be the opening.
They wanted to start off with the bang, and that's how you're going to get it done, man. I mean, you have Mike Swick, who's, of course, the nickname speaks for itself, but, I mean, the guy's hands, his feet are so, he's just so quick. His stand-up is really, truly remarkable.
He looked awesome against DeMarcus Johnson when he knocked him out in the last Fox card.
Picked him to pieces. I mean, you can see that he's really been putting in the time, putting in more effort, and, I mean, if you train with people like John Fitch all the time, they're going to start to rub off on you. You can't train with those guys, every day of your life and not start to get a little bit of it back. I'm not saying John Fitch is known necessarily for his striking, but you can also see Mike's, wrestling and grappling has also been going up, which is awesome for him because it's going to round him out a lot more.
And it's a feel-good story for him because he was out for so long with all these stomach disease problems or whatever. So it's great to see him back and doing well. But as far as predictions go, I mean, I'm going to go with Mike Swick, but it's really a toss-up.
I'm going to have to agree, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to go a little bit towards Mike Brown, only because I feel like, Matt Brown, why do I keep doing that, man? Matt Brown, only because Matt Brown's wrestling is going to be, I think, more of a factor. And as far as Matt Brown's chin, I mean, it's been tested a lot. He's been punched in the face a lot.
He's got an iron chin.
Mike Swick's going to go for what he does best, and that's going to be his stand-up striking, but I think, Brown's just going to be able to walk right, keep pushing forward, and it's going to come down to an endurance test, and I just hope Mike Swick's ready for that kind of push.
I'd say no matter who wins, the fans win on that one, because that's going to be I think it could be a fight of the night.
Yeah, it's going to be a slugfest, dude. It's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a chin checker match, and I'm excited to see who finally crumbles. I mean, even if it goes all 3 rounds, I still feel like it's going to be, a good, strong pace of that fight the entire time. So
yeah.
It'll be beefy.
I think it was Matt Brown. I saw him in a fight where he was fighting somebody and they were both pressed up against the cage on the floor, and the one guy was like, you could hear him yelling at him. He was like, let's stand up. and then Matt Brown's like, make me, bitch.
Destroyed. I think that was that fight against, I can't think of his name right now, but the guy who was that karate. The karate guy,
the Matt Thompson?
Yeah, he does a lot of those
Wonder Boy.
Yeah, does a lot of side kicks.
Yeah, he
And
got shut down.
He got destroyed.
There was a lot of hype on him after that head kick in his debut, and he got shut down.
But yeah, he got in it pretty quick. I mean, but once again, you go into MMA, it just truly starts to show who's a true mixed martial artist and who's a one-trick pony. And
yeah,
you can stand there and you can do all the side kicks you want, but if you can't stop a takedown, you're not going to make it very far in this sport.
So that's the fight. That's gonna be cool, but no one cares about it. Now let's move to the potatoes. Shogun versus Gustafsson.
I'm putting my money on Shogun. I'm gonna go with Shogun and say his experience is gonna make him.
I'm putting my money on Shogun because I love Shogun.
Because I want to
so much. I want to see him win, but oh man, does he have his fucking work cut out for him?
I mean, Gustafsson is probably one of the best up-and-comers right now in the UFC. Yeah. I mean, he's got a head full of steam, and I don't see him. It's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be really, really tough.
Yeah.
I hope Shogun doesn't go into this fight like he did in the John Jones title fight,
like a big fat baby.
Yeah, come out, way overweight, out of shape, thinking he's just gonna walk through. He's not the Shogun of Pride anymore. He needs to take every fight as seriously as if it is a title fight. No one's easy anymore, at this level. So.
I think. There's two possibilities here. I think if they keep the fight standing, I think Shogun will win. I think he's gonna rock him, and he's gonna swarm on him, and he's gonna do some old school Shogun damage on him.
Bring some knees out, get that clinch, get that plum clinch going.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was surprising how long it took him to finish Brandon Vera, which says a lot about Shogun's decline in quality.
Yeah.
But he still won, and he smoked Forrest Griffin. And I think he won the Henderson fight.
I mean, I'm still gonna go with Henderson only because I feel like he got dropped like what? The first 3 rounds were probably all Henderson, and it's a 5-round fight. So,
I mean, if anything, it was a draw because. It blows my mind that the fifth round wasn't 10-8, that they scored it 10-9.
Yeah, I mean, that was Shogun.
The whole round was full Mount Shogun.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the wrong group.
Yeah, wrong fight. We're backtracking.
But I think if Gustafsson actually takes it to the ground, if he puts Shogun on his back, at least for 1 round, then he's going to win. I think it's going to gas Shogun.
And it's going to tire him out. Shogun. He's got good gas, but he doesn't have the best gas in the world, you know what I mean? And, going against a very young, relatively, very young, up-and-coming fighter. I mean, if Gustafsson finds that he can take him to the ground, that's going to become part of the game plan. And then that's going to be a problem because Shogun doesn't exactly have the best takedown defense, especially now in the light heavyweight division. So, and that's a stacked division. So it's going to, whoever wins this is just looking at much more difficult fights to continue right afterwards, which is why I think it's super exciting then. So
I think the X factor that I'm really pulling for, that I think is why Shogun's going to win, is, man, this is a step up in competition for Gustafsson, because Gustafsson's been running through people like Vladimir Manchushenko, and Thiago, he got a unanimous decision against Thiago Silva, but if Gustafsson comes into this fight thinking that Shogun's going to be like another Thiago Silva or somebody like that, he's in for a rude surprise, because although Shogun's declined, he's no longer the best in his division, he's definitely top 5.
Well, for sure, but I honestly don't think that's going to be a problem, because I feel Gustafsson does take every fight super seriously, and I think that shows in every fight that he's fought in. He's always in shape, he's always ready to go. He's the one pushing the pace, he's the one dropping the bombs, going for the clinches, going for the double legs. I think if anything, we're going to see probably the best Gustafsson we've ever seen.
It would be bad for Shogun.
It would be terrible for Shogun, but I think he knows he's fighting a legend. He knows this isn't going to be a walk in the park, and I honestly think we're probably, like I said, we're going to see the best Gustafsson we've ever seen probably, this Saturday. So.
I'm pulling for Shogun. I'll make my predictions from my heart, not from my brain.
I'm in the exact same boat with you. I want to see Shogun's hand raised. I want to see him start making that climb back. But if Gustafsson really comes out the way I think he's going to come out, it's gonna be a tough fight. Once again, this pay-per-view is just, they really did their homework sitting down making these fights.
It's not even a pay-per-view.
I know. It's all the better.
So, next fight, we got
The return.
the return of the prodigy,
Of the
BJ
prodigy.
Penn.
Versus Rory McDonald.
God, I hate Rory McDonald. I just hate him. He's just... He irks me. I don't know what it is about that guy.
Well, I mean, it's just so funny to me. You have the apprentice of George St. Pierre going up against BJ Penn. It almost feels like the old BJ Penn St. Pierre kind of feud. Rory McDonald calls out BJ Penn.
Called him fat, man.
Yeah,
I was furious when he called BJ Penn fat.
I love BJ Penn. I've always been a BJ Penn fan. I would love to see him
At lightweight.
Yeah, see him go back to, but if he wants to take this fight, where it's at. I'm hoping Rory McDonald's going to go in there, really arrogant, really cocky, thinking that he's just going to put BJ Penn on his back and wear him out, and I'm hoping that he just gets caught.
I'm thinking it's going to be one of two things. BJ's going to knock him out really early in the first round. Going to catch him really.
He's known for
Gotta catch him really
quick in the first 2 minutes of the
Yeah, that or he's going to get taken down, and it's going to be like when he fought Matt Hughes, and he's going to get overambitious in his ground and pound, and BJ Penn's going to be able to sweep him and take his back.
And no one goes for that rear naked harder than BJ Penn. So I hope that's the case, to be perfectly honest. I mean, unfortunately, in the Matt Hughes, the second part of the Matt Hughes fight, BJ Penn goes for so many submissions that by the second round he had no gas left.
Yeah.
And that's always been a BJ Penn problem. This is gas. So
He has great athletic talent, but he has no athletic discipline. He doesn't train.
Nowhere near how he should, which is unfortunate.
But I think he lucked out so much that Rory McDonald got injured and this fight got postponed because
give him some more time.
Yeah, I think he was gonna come into this fight out of shape, old school. Oh, I surf to train, whatever.
Hawaii.
And he was gonna get smashed. But I think now that he's had about twice as long to train, he looks great in all the videos.
Fingers crossed for BJ Penn.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks good though. He looks good. Like I said, I'm hoping that Rory thinks he's gonna run through him like his forefather GSP did, and that he does that same mistake that a lot of the young fighters make, where they think they smell blood, they rush in, and then they create some huge erroneous mistake, and then the sweep comes and then lights out. I'm just hoping BJ Penn tap out, because unfortunately I feel like if it's not in the first round, it's going to be Rory McDonald.
Yeah, it's going to be a long road for DJ if he gets out of the first round. But I'm saying BJ Penn first round. I'm thinking knockout, get submission.
I'm gonna go sub. But like I said, if it's not the first, then I would say put your money on Rory McDonald, because once again, a very, very big up and comer.
It's just such a massive size differential too. Rory McDonald is probably like 200 pounds.
And his lats are twice the size. The dude's just, you can tell he trains with George St. Pierre, the body shape, the way they
in the last video BJ Penn put up, he was 174. He's going to cut 4 pounds for the weigh-in, it's like, why do you frustrate me so much, BJ? Why don't you go back to lightweight? Like, you
put in the time, put in the effort.
Like, you won the welterweight championship. We know, but you've never even had any success at welterweight. Like,
lightweight, you were pretty much undisputed there.
Killer.
Yeah. I mean, just disgusting.
That Sean Sherkney?
Oh my gosh.
So good.
Goes down in history as probably one of the most memorable, exciting fights ever.
He's selling me on this fight though. Like the way he's talking, he's saying, I want to be considered the greatest. Again, I'm mad that nobody talks about me when they're talking about the greatest anymore. I'm like, I'm buying what you're selling right now.
Fire the blood, man. Fire the blood.
Please don't just...
Please deliver.
Please don't let this be like Nate, when you fought Nick Diaz. That was so depressing.
Oh my gosh,
so
just bit to pieces. Yeah, that was really sad. And then, he has that heartbreaking post-fight interview.
Oh, where
his face looks like silly putty. I have a kid on the way. I don't think I can keep going home like
I was at a Halloween party when that happened. Crow Cop lost and retired. BJ Penn lost and retired. I was distraught.
There goes two of the main.
There goes the good time at this party.
Hard. hard pill to swallow when BJ kind of decided to hang it up.
All right, main event.
Here it is, man. Nate Diaz, Ben Smooth Henderson. Wow, this is, I mean,
that's gonna be an awesome fight.
It's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be really, really good. And I'm really excited to see. How Nate Diaz is going to approach this fight, more so than Ben Henderson, because I feel like Ben Henderson, he has kind of a foolproof way that he goes into fights. He has, it's not that all his fights look the same, but they are fairly similar. He's gonna, he's gonna go in there and he's gonna work the legs, because I mean the dude's got thighs bigger than most people.
I agree. What I'm saying, that's the X factor of this fight, is how much of a difference are those leg kicks gonna be? Because Nate Diaz notoriously does not check kicks. He eats every kick that gets thrown at his legs. Cerrone was kept dropping him with those kicks.
Yeah, grabbing the kick and then kicking the leg out, doing a sweep.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He just wades through them.
Well, you know what it is? He has such confidence in his jiu-jitsu. I feel like he feels like, put me on my back. I'm just as comfortable from down there as I am standing up with you.
Yeah, is he more dangerous standing up or on the ground? He's a killer.
That's why I said the factor for me is how Nate Diaz comes into this fight, because I want him confident. I want him confident in his stand-up. I want him confident off his back. But I really feel like if I'm Nate Diaz, I'm probably expecting to be on my back. I feel like Ben Henderson is going to go for that takedown. He's going to try and put you on your back. I would hope that Ben Henderson, he's a very humble guy. He's very respectful. I feel like he's gonna respect his jiu-jitsu.
No matter what happens, he's gonna talk about Christ.
Oh, and then at the very end, thank God for Ben Henderson, I guess.
Thank you, Jesus, for letting me punch people in a cage for money.
For thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I mean, I think Bendo's going to try and take him down, and he's going to try and grind out a decision, but it's just not going to work the way that he's planning on it. I feel like that didn't work on Nate Diaz when he was fighting at welterweight. When Dong Young Kim was doing it to him, when Rory McDonald was doing it to him, that could happen. But now, he's a big guy in this division. He's not going to get manhandled like he was in welterweight.
The big fish in a small pond.
He's a huge lightweight. So is Ben Henderson. They're probably the two biggest lightweights in the division.
I'd say so. I mean, Nate Diaz is a bit more long, lanky, whereas Ben Henderson's a bit more compact, stout. Ben Henderson, he's gone up a whole bunch of tough guys. You know what I mean? He's taken on, Anthony Pettis, and he's taken on guys who aren't afraid to get hit, aren't afraid to be taken down. But there's nobody that has the swagger of Nate Diaz.
I'm wondering how much taunting do you think is going to go on?
I hope as much as humanly possible. I mean that's part of the fun of watching the Diaz brothers fight, is that they love being in that ring. They hate you that much. As much as they love being there, that's how much they hate their
Bendo's been saying that it's not going to bother him, and when he does it, he's just going to punch him in the face every time he does it. But I'm like, I bet it's going to drive you crazy.
How many people do you feel say that though going against the Diaz brother? They're all like, oh, don't you can talk all the shit you want. It's not going to faze me. When you're in that ring and that boy's fucking giving you the finger and telling you you're a piece of shit, and then before you can react, he's popping you in the face with a jab. That's gonna get on your nerves, man.
I think the only person
in your head.
I think the only person it didn't affect was Takanori Gomi, because he doesn't speak.
He doesn't understand.
But he had too much on his plate to worry about in that fight anyway.
Yeah. Poor Fireball.
But, oh man, Nate is on a tear. He looks so good, but all of Bendo's fights have been decisions. He's had these I can't remember any of his fights. I've watched them, I watched all of them, but I can't remember those fights. Other than when Anthony Pettis kicked him off, did the kick across the cage.
The strike of the year, the Duke Rufus cage kick. Yeah, I mean, that really was the most memorable thing, and then of course you have these,
and he lost that fight. The only memorable thing is him losing.
Yeah, it's him almost, people like to talk, was that strike, was that strike? You watch that fight, Ben Henderson was pretty much on the ropes the entire fight. He's just an amazing athlete, so it doesn't look like he was struggling, but Anthony Pettis had his number pretty much that entire fight.
Yeah, I would love to see that rematch. I hope he loses, and then we get to see that rematch.
That would be awesome. That would be really cool. It's just so sad because I feel like, there was all that these stupid rematches and this continuous debacle of pushing back more and more number one contender slots to let people who are already champions get another shot at being champion. And then he got put on the back burner, faces Clay Guida, and loses to a typical lay and pray situation.
Yeah. For this fight, I'm saying every way I look at it, I think Nate Diaz's bottom game is better than Hendo's top game. I think his boxing is going to be better than Hendo's kickboxing. I think this is going to be a late round submission for Nate Diaz. I think he will become the lightweight champion. I think it's going to be in the third, fourth, or fifth round submission win.
Drag him into a little bit of deep water, let him. And I hope it's in typical Nate Diaz fashion, with his face black and blue, and plenty of blood, and him, you thinking you're taking him down and realizing he's actually pulling you down for a submission.
Yeah.
And I want to say Nate Diaz. I really do. I really want to see him win. For some reason, I just feel that athletic ability. Ben Henderson is going to pose some problems for Nate Diaz. I know he's got great striking. His boxing is immaculate. The only problem is I don't feel like he has enough pepper behind those punches.
But that's the whole point. Like, that's their whole strategy, is that they'll never get tired because they're only throwing 50% punches, but they're always going to land.
Yeah.
It's accurate. So it's like
keep it in the same spot.
Hendo's throwing bombs but missing, and he's just knocking away at him.
I would get that. It's just I feel like we're almost considering Benson Henderson to have no gas in his tank, and he's a cardio monster too. So
I don't think it's going to be. I don't think either of them are going to gas. I don't think
there's any way in hell.
I think in the end, though, there's going to be a massive accumulation of damage on Henderson, round after round. He's just going to get more and more damage.
Chip him away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm pulling for Nate Diaz. I really want to see Nate Diaz win.
You're predicting.
I'm going to predict Ben Henderson, and I'm going to predict a decision win. I don't think he's going to knock out Nate Diaz. I don't think he's going to be. He's definitely not going to be able to submit Nate Diaz.
Yeah, no way.
I'm pretty sure, but I feel like he's going to grind out another typical Ben Henderson victory. He's going to chop at those legs. It's going to make it more difficult for rubber guard. It's going to make it more difficult, keep him away, fight those takedowns. Every leg kick that Nate Diaz does not check is, unfortunately, I feel really going to be detrimental, especially as they go further into those rounds.
Yeah, for sure. I hope if Nate Diaz wins, he praises the 209.
Yeah, and then he says, he talks about Melendez being the true champion again. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case.
All right, so those are our predictions. It's going to be a great card no matter what happens, whether we're right or wrong.
Yeah, just watch.
Yeah, I'm stoked to watch. It's on Fox. It's for free.
It doesn't get much better.
Yeah, no excuse not to. So now we're going to talk about two different subjects that we've been thinking a lot about, and we're just wanting to discuss them. The first off is what's on every UFC fan's mind: Anderson Silva versus GSP. What's GSP's move? What should GSP do?
I mean, I like any other fan, I do want to see the super fight happen. I think it would be cool. I just don't see it benefiting George St. Pierre in any way. I feel like he doesn't really want that fight.
Well, what about the win? If he wins,
if he beats Anderson, I mean, that'd be obviously monumental. I mean, he'd be the first person, to put a fucking ding in Anderson Silva's UFC career. But I feel like along with most people, feel that the reach difference, Anderson Silva's ability to move, to get his back off the cage. He's already fought a strong grappler and proven that he can keep it going. I'm in no way comparing Chael Sonnen to GSP, by the way. I'm just saying, as much as I dislike Chael Sonnen, he is one of the best wrestlers probably in the UFC.
Well, this is what I think is crazy, is if you remember all the conversation going on about this super fight, after the first Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva fight, everyone was like, GSP would destroy
because
Silva.
you're just going to put him on his back.
Yeah, did you see what Sonnen did? GSP's even better than that, so he'll just put him on his back. And now everyone gives him no shred of hope.
Well, because they saw Anderson Silva come back into that second time. And
now they're just like, you know, how much money does the UFC need to bribe George St. Pierre to get in this ring and die? You know, to go in there and get killed.
To get splattered, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's not going to be that one-sided if it does happen.
I don't either. I just don't think GSP is going to be able to. Anderson Silva's a closer. George St. Pierre, unfortunately, is not. And I think it's going to. You know, Anderson Silva once again is going to be prepping for heavy takedown bases. And I know George St. Pierre. I mean, it's so funny because you talk about George St. Pierre, you always say wrestling. The dude's got great stand-up too.
Oh, he's got the best jab in his division.
I mean, he what was it? First round against Josh Koscheck?
First round he broke his orbital socket.
His orbital socket. I mean,
he trains with Freddie Roach. That's Manny Pacquiao's striking trainer.
I mean, the dude's got awesome stand-up. I feel like George St. Pierre is also the kind of guy that he kind of likes to try and beat you at your own game. And I feel like that was kind of evident in the Josh Koscheck fight, a bit evident in the Carlos Condit fight. He knows Carlos Condit is a stand-up fighter. He knows Josh Koscheck is a stand-up fighter. And typical GSP would just put you on your back and grind you out, but he stood up with both those guys.
Yeah.
You know, did a slugfest. I have a feeling he tried it against Anderson Silva, and I have a feeling Anderson Silva would make him start wanting to shoot for those takedowns after a while.
I think the reason Silva's pushing for this fight so much, and the reason GSP is pushing against him so much, both comes down to money, in the fact that Silva only wants to fight a couple more times, and he gets such a big share of the pay-per-views.
Huge.
He doesn't care about fighting Chris Weidman. You know, he doesn't want to fight these no-name people. You know, like he wants to have these big super fights so he can make as much money as he possibly can. I don't think he's actually interested in whether or not he's going to win or lose against GSP. He just wants to do it because he knows it's the biggest money fight that he can take.
The most profitable thing he could do right now in his career.
And that's the reason that GSP doesn't want to take the fight, is that he is still young. He still has years left in his career. He's not at the end of his career like Silva is.
He's almost at the apex kind of.
And he's thinking about his brand. And I think what he's really worried about is if he goes in there and he gets Stephan Bonner.
Oh my gosh.
It would ruin him. He's not worried. Yeah, he's not worried about if he loses. He's worried about if he gets humiliated. If he loses in such an embarrassing way in the first round, then it's going to so damage his brand forever.
And it's also going to tarnish his reputation as an undisputed champion.
How long did it take him to recover his reputation after Matt Serra beat him?
I mean, not until he got the belt back, pretty much. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, that fight was just once again another situation of basically someone going into a fight thinking they had already won it before the fight had even started. He didn't put any eggs in Matt Serra's basket, and he paid for it.
No matter what the UFC is saying, I really don't think this fight's going to happen.
I know Dana White keeps saying, oh, it's already happening, it's already signed, it's already going to go. George St. Pierre obviously does not want this fight, and you can't force these gentlemen to fight each other.
I think the only way that this fight is going to happen is if Silva drops to welterweight, and I don't think he can. I think he's fought at welterweight before, but at this point in his life, he's put on so much muscle. Now he's such a big guy now. I don't think he's going to be able to drop to 170.
I don't think it's just, you know what it is? It's unfortunate for people like Anderson Silva because they're so dominant in their weight class that I would imagine it must get kind of tedious having to fight, just these people. I mean, Stephan Bonner didn't do anything really to deserve a title shot, but they just threw.
It wasn't a title shot.
It was a catch weight kind of like. But I mean, that once again, that was obviously just a fight for entertainment. I mean, the UFC didn't even try and make it seem like Stephan Bonner really even had a chance. It was. The way they sold the fight was either come see the greatest knockout of all time or see the biggest upset. Like anyone thinks Stephan Bonner is going to upset Anderson Silva. I mean, the dude was on roids, and he still couldn't even. Anderson Silva let him punch him in the face on roids.
Yeah.
And he still couldn't. He couldn't even face him. You can't. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they. I really don't know how that fight's going to pan out. Part of me says Silva's just going to murk him. Silva's just going to humiliate him like everyone thinks, dude. But another part of me thinks it'll be a really competitive bout where I think Silva would still win, but GSP is probably going to come out of the fight looking good still. I don't think people are going to say GSP is a horrible fighter.
Me personally, I think the next best step for George St. Pierre would not necessarily be to take the Cedar fight.
I think Johnny Hendricks?
I think the welterweight division has plenty of talent in it. I feel like, unlike the middleweight division, there's still, there's plenty of up-and-coming fighters. There's still plenty of people there, young and hungry and ready to fight. And I don't feel like the welterweight's as exhausted as the middleweight division. I mean, I still want to see the Nick Diaz fight. I still want to see George St. Pierre versus Nick Diaz.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather watch that almost before I'd watch Anderson Silva.
That brings us to our next subject. If they did just decide to make Nick Diaz versus GSP, even though he lost to Carlos Condit in his last fight, crazier things have happened. We've got Chael Sonnen fighting John Jones. Hasn't fought in light heavyweight in years, no notable light heavyweight victories. He's coming off a loss to Anderson Silva, and out of nowhere,
he's next in line.
Fast track next in line. And who was John Jones' previous opponent? Middleweight Vitor Belfort. Like, what is going on
with the title selection?
And light heavyweight is full of great contenders, and that's the upcoming fight, and that was the last fight. It's ridiculous.
I just don't see. I understand that it's a business. You gotta make that money. You gotta get that money. We, as fans, we understand that they need that money, because if they don't have the money, they can't continue to put on, these great events for us. But at the same time, I feel like somewhere along the line, the ranking system has been thrown away, and it's turned into this hodgepodge of who got me the best ratings in the last fight they were in, whether they won or they lost. So now they get, Chael Sonnen is as good as a WWE wrestler, because he's just going to run his mouth the whole time, and people love to watch him lose. And a sick part of most people probably would also like to see him win, because they want to see that mouth back up a little bit of what it's been saying, because we've seen him do it before. He's made fools out of quite a few people, and Brian Stann.
Oh, he murked Brian Stann.
He made him look so foolish in that fight. We need to go back to the way ranking is supposed to be done.
You want it to be like Bellator? You want it to be tournament system? Or?
I would love, to be perfectly honest, I would love to see a tournament system. I don't think it should be as, once again,
UFC Grand Prix?
Yeah, I would like to see kind of a UFC Grand Prix. No joke, I would love to see a UFC Grand Prix. I don't necessarily like the Bellator tournament style, only because it's not continuous.
Yeah.
They have a competition to see who will be the #1 contender, and then 4 months later that fight actually happens.
And then the champion barely defends the belt, because they're waiting for the
time. And I feel like that system is also flawed, but I'm not saying, let's go back. I guess I am kind of saying, let's go back to kind of like how the Pride days were. Back when it was pretty much, just a giant, tournament, and the two guys at the end pretty much had already fought 3 or 4 other guys, and then, it's just hard for me to figure out. It's hard to, be confident in watching your favorite fighter win fights when there's no promise of them ever getting a title shot. Jim Miller wins 6-fight winning streak?
I think so, yeah.
And then he goes to fight Nate Diaz, and Dana White openly says, if Nate Diaz wins this fight, he was on like a 2-fight tear at that point,
yeah.
He gets a title shot. Jim Miller wins, he's still not in title contention.
That was the same thing when Martin Kampmann fought Jake Shields. He said if Jake Shields beats Martin Kampmann, title shot against GSP, but not for Martin Kampmann. It's like, it really, at the end of the day, it's entertainment, and I'm entertained by the fact that John Jones is fighting Chael Sonnen. Do I think it's almost dangerously uncompetitive? Yes. Do I think, Chael Sonnen's going to get seriously hurt by John Jones? Yeah. And it just, what bothers me about these title fights against people that don't deserve the title fight is that it diminishes the idea of, one, that this is the ultimate fighting championship,
the best of the best. Yeah, the #1 contender versus the champion.
Yeah, so it's and it diminishes the idea of a championship bout. I'm expecting the championship bout to be the best guy versus the second best guy, And this is here's the best guy versus some guy.
Versus a fight a fan day.
Yeah.
You might as well just do that at this point. You might as well just pick a kid from the crowd and be like, hey, if you ever wanted to fight John Jones, maybe you could win the belt if you surprise him.
Yeah, and it would be just like Stephen Bonner. Look at this awesome knockout, or you could see the craziest upset ever.
Yeah, or you can see something completely impossible.
Yeah.
You can see a black hole form in the middle of the ring, and both competitors get sucked in. I mean, it's just. I feel like we're working backwards, and we keep giving people these shots, and we keep hindering the people who deserve title shots. Because now that these other people get these shots, a lot of people don't think about the fact that this is what these guys do for a living. This is how they make their money. And if we keep giving their title shots away, they might come to a point where they're not making enough money that they can continue to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And that was almost the case with Anthony Pettis. Thank God that's not the case, because he's an amazing fighter. I love watching him fight. But he was in a real big bind after the UFC absorbed the WEC, and they had that whole commotion with the lightweight division because we got to give a rematch. To Gray Maynard and Frankie Edgar, and then that got pushed back.
Yeah.
That got pushed back.
And it's like, what? That was the most confusing thing, because no one even cared about any of those Frankie Edgar rematches. Like, against Maynard, they were great fights, but they drew barely any pay-per-view buys. No one wanted to see it. They were toxic for sales, and then no one wanted to see the Ben Henderson-Frankie Edgar rematch.
No.
I mean, Hendo pretty clearly won the first time. He almost lost the second time, but still, no one was demanding this rematch.
I mean, and I get where Frankie Edgar was coming from. He was like, hey, people were demanding rematches of me, so it's only fair that I should be able to get my rematch. I get it, Frankie, but the problem is by doing that, you're now hindering the entire lightweight division. You're keeping other fighters away from getting their rightful title shots. You are messing up the schedule for all the lightweight fights, because now number one contender fights.
There's all this bottleneck.
Yeah, you've got like 6 dudes who are supposed to be number one contender, and yet we keep giving it to the dude that just came over from Strikeforce, because we want to see how that guy will stand up to a champion. Yeah. Not enough work. Not enough work. Got to get in there and fix that, clean that up, because the system's got to come back, and I'm going to credit most of that mess up to this era of rematch. I know as a fan we should have the right to be like, I want to see it again, but at the same time there has to come a point where they need to just look at us and say, listen, you can see it again if he gets there.
He works his way back up.
Yeah. I don't want any more of this. Just let him do it again.
Yeah, and this whole Frankie Edgar rematch thing, the whole trend just started because, I mean, everybody thought BJ Penn won that first fight, so they wanted it, and that makes sense because people love BJ Penn. Like, they wanted BJ Penn to be champion. Like,
yeah, so bad.
No one, like, this is a personal tangent now, but I fucking hate Frankie Edgar. Like, his point fighting system, where he's not trying to really, like, win. He's not trying to finish.
Yeah, no close.
He's just trying to get the points. Like, it bores me to death.
Put you on your back, stand back up. Put you on your back, stand back up. I hate it.
He makes Gray Maynard look exciting, which is crazy.
And unfortunately, Gray Maynard's previous fight against Clay Guida was just a wash.
People have to do crazy things to make Gray Maynard look exciting.
Oh my! They have to fight? Not at all. They have to pretty much not fight to make him look like he's super fun to watch.
But going back to this, like, entertainment versus
actual competition
kind of thing, I think the UFC has had so much success trying to legitimize themselves. The more and more they try and get away from professional wrestling, the more and more they try and make it seem more like a real competition. It's always more successful. I feel like in the past decade they've had so much success with trying to legitimize the sport, and things like this just make it seem silly.
Well, I feel like it sets it back. I feel like it really sets it back. I mean, you look at boxing. Yes, there are rematches, but that's because those people went back down and they boxed their way all the way back. And then, in the same vein, though, boxing is also in a difficult place right now because you do also have these champions who are just they're so ahead, like they're so top tier that it's really hard to find, you know, opponents that can even really put up much of a fight. I mean, unfortunately right now we have the middleweight division is pretty much broken. John Jones is slowly breaking the light heavyweight division.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see him versus Thiago Silva, to be perfectly honest.
John Jones versus Thiago Silva?
Yeah, I wanted to see that. I know
I think that could have been a good fight a couple years ago, but John Jones now would destroy him.
Yeah, he's developed so much. Say what you want about John Jones, he's kind of it right now. He's kind of that.
He's the up and coming dominant champion.
Yeah. And I'm excited, you know, with all the speculation of him going to heavyweight. I don't think it's going to be for another few years, hopefully not.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a
rush. What I would be interested in, I think he's the only guy that could do it, is hold both belts.
And I'm looking for that too.
He'll be the first guy to be able to hold two belts at the same time.
The Dan Henderson of UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see it. I would like to see it. I mean, I'd still like to see Dan Henderson versus John Jones. I would. Dan Henderson has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that's another thing with the contendership stuff is that they're like, he's the number one contender for sure. He's the number one contender. He was the number one contender when he came in, and he still fought Shogun and secured reestablished
number one
contendership. And now it's like, oh, well, you got a knee injury. Now let's make a new number one contender. It's like you can't just say he's not the number one contender anymore. Like
you can't just strip that up. Well, luckily, you know, all this ties right back into this title shot throwaway kind of ideology that's permeating in the UFC right now. Because at this tier, at this level, you know, these guys are training so hard, they're training every day, they're doing live sparring. I mean, these are guys who are pretty much doing as close as you can get to the actual fight every day of their lives, and they're getting messed up. These people are getting injured. We need to start taking better care of these fighters. We need to start looking into better ways of training. We need longer time.
That's a topic for another time. We could go into that forever. Yeah. But I really do hate the way that they give out title shots, just because it totally makes me take number one contendership bouts and title. Yeah, whenever they're like, this is a title eliminator, you know, the winner of this is gonna be the next fighter. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
who cares?
Maybe that's what Dana White said today.
Yes,
you know, but tomorrow it'll be totally different.
That dude slipped on a banana peel. Now that dude that just lost is the number one contender, or his best friend that he trains with.
Yeah, or just some guy that talked a lot of shit on Twitter is now the number one contender.
And I really feel if they really want to make this sport more legitimate, you know, really start, you know, really hammering it into, you know, the rest of the sports heads out there, there's got to be a better way of doing this ranking system of, you know, making sure that people get title shots appropriately. And I feel like with all the high influx of talent that's coming in, they need to get on this quick. There's a lot of young blood coming in, and it's going to get a lot more heavily populated with really.
What they should do is make an official UFC ranking system where they can say, this man is ranked number 3, this man is ranked number 2. You know?
Yeah, because I mean, just keep it within the bounds of UFC, because right now they're going off the ranking system of the entire world.
Yeah,
so where number 2 is in Strikeforce, well.
Yeah, it's like, why is he the number 2? Just because he's the Strikeforce champion? Like, he's beating up a bunch of nobodies in Strikeforce? Or why is Shinya Aoki like in the top 10? Like, who has Shinya Aoki beat in like 5 years? Who has he beat? You know,
has he left within the top 10?
Yeah.
But until they get that unified ranking system, that's going to be unfortunately a problem we're going to have to deal with for a long time with fighters all across the board being just put in the ranking because they can. I mean, just look at all the crossovers from Strikeforce. They're not doing so well in the UFC, and I don't think that surprises anyone. The caliber of talent is totally different. Totally different.
I'm still not sold on Alistair Overeem.
I'm not yet either. And when you almost get outboxed by Fabricio Verdun, it makes you start to think, well, how good is your striking?
And you kicked Brock Lesnar in his surgically repaired stomach.
His broken gut for the win. I was expecting you to put fists on him, but I mean, like I said, to be perfectly honest, until he really goes, You know, there's that speculation, all that talk about him fighting Bigfoot Silva.
That's another guy from Strikeforce.
It's not going to prove it.
If he beats Bigfoot Silva, I'll be like, okay, you beat another Strikeforce guy.
Congratulations.
You still haven't sold.
Beat Cain Velasquez,
Yeah.
beat Junior Dos Santos, beat one of those guys, and then I'll truly believe in the power of Alistair Overeem.
The Reem.
Yeah, the Reem. One excellent name. One of many fabulous nicknames that are created for fighters. What is Matt Yushchenko, the janitor?
The janitor, yeah.
Boy.
I think the worst is probably Smooth Henderson. Ben Smooth Henderson. Horrible.
I actually think the Executioner is worse. I feel like
Maybe.
it's borderline racist.
It is borderline racist, but they got to do what they can, I guess, to try and get the Hispanic demographic.
Gotta sell them the Executioner.
I feel like they probably paid off Cain Velasquez to get that brown pride tattoo on him.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. All right, guys. Well, that's the first installment of Mixed Martial Talk. Appreciate you watching. Subscribe to the channel and like our video and keep watching. All right. Take it easy.
Peace.
And we broke.